Soul Leveling Season 2 Episode 6 was... Sorry. Hello?
不是，我在说那个
Huh? I don't know, just called me. Finally, the episode that everyone was hyping up about, including me, delivered. Jinwoo versus Karkalgan is better than Igris versus Jinwoo. Maybe the combat slash tightly choreographed fight was better there, but overall the episode was such a masterclass of every aspect that was built by the person in charge. I thought it was gonna be underwhelming because of how hyped up it was. Someone got a bit too hyped up thinking Purple Igris was something else, but A1 proved me wrong. The staff list had some surprising freelancers, but the heavy lifting is still by the main staff for Soul Leveling doing the highlights. The schedule for Soul Leveling is surprisingly healthier than some people assumed. Not saying it's good. Even some people said that they finished production of Season 2, although maybe almost. The peaks of Season 2 is not this episode. We still have the Takeuchi episode, which could be a case of like a Dan episode 7, where the credits can be the healthiest, since I assume his episode was finished way back because he has another show that he's directing and very involved with it. We still don't have confirmation what episode he's doing. It could be the next fight or the final fight in the Jeju Island thingy stuff. Balls? Capella's balls. This episode covered chapter 72 to half of chapter 76. Although the funny I'm a minor Chai-Hain scene was in chapter 71, is the least amount of chapters that was adapted this season because there were some extended and original scenes. This scene with Choi was original just to probably hype up the Jeju Island raid a bit more and extended the fight with Karkalgan quite a bit. It was basically 2 minutes of original concept for the action at the final stretch of the fight with additional changes. Most notably, Karkalgan's magic circle. It had more signs, meaning it had more abilities like this gravitational magic thing that wasn't in the manhwa. It could be in the novel, I don't know. Wonder what this 69 symbol ability would do.
Sinchi, actually, this is the Cancer zodiac sign because in the Greek mythology
I know. It's a joke. Rather than the manga, the fire-breathing attack, then Jinwoo jumping attacking the eye, with some Manager Wu and Cha-Hain's dialogue, had a lot more added scenes in the anime, with the chain thing, Loris Lava, the barrage of spells, and the Kakugan just went full Denken all hands on deck. Unfortunately, we didn't get the thumbs up panel with Iron and Tank, but who really cares? This episode was directed and storyboarded by Takayuki Kikuchi, who previously did episode 3 of season 1, and of course the Igris fight. It's fascinating how much better this episode feels and look. These two episodes are fundamentally different, but at the same time, not really. One is a 1v1 basically, and the other is a, I don't know, 50 versus 50. There's more flexibility with ideas and concepts for the action because of how much more entities there are. I gotta mention Takumi Tori as the action director, not action animation director. The difference is I think action director actually had some involvement with the direction for the action rather than action animation director. You're just correcting some of the action with adding movement and such. Action direction can also do that, but there's more stuff than just that. Before I glaze this episode, something kind of bothered me. There's some stuff this episode that was a bit but nothing apparently ruining it. It's just nitpicking. But listen, I think Saono's music is good. AOT and still my favorite work from him. 86 is a masterpiece. Especially that Lilac soundtrack, oh my god. Saono's music in Soul Leveling just feels like background music, nothing else. Not all the time, just sometimes. It doesn't impact much of the climactic scenes. I get it, Shadowborn, amazing OST. I think it falls under the audio direction or editing. The volume is not loud, I guess. Here, I'll give you some examples. I know it's fundamentally different. The recent Sakamoto Days episode, Yuki Haishi's music has that oomph. Same goes with his My Hero stuff. You can feel the bass, the vibration, or even in Blue Lock. Again, it could be more about the audio direction. I do think there's also the sound effects that feels a bit quiet. Anyways, getting sidetracked. Hopefully this video is not that long. Future me, how we looking? Fuck you. As usual, Kikuchi conveying depth and dynamism for the action is sublime. They really wanted to use the overall CG aspects for the background to make the scale as big as possible with the abilities and fights. And with Kikuchi's understanding of scale really showed the potential of it with the 3D background in most of these cuts, playing around with visual ideas and concepts to make the flow of the action feel more alive with how different this episode's action is structured. The colors that emanates Karkalgan's aura was cool, with Karkalgan's face popping out. The transitions were really smooth, the camera work especially, switching to different characters fighting, with using like a head being decapitated, or just smooth cuts with igris hair thing. Also, the slow-mo S cuts were quite present. I'm just guessing here, but since Tori was supervising the action, it could be his input on this. While yes, the igris fight, the slow-mo cuts were there, but not to this degree, and it does feel different in terms of the timing of it. Tori does use a lot of slow-mo in a sequence to insinuate that force or anticipation. Same goes for his cuts in Solo Leveling. It could just be Kikuchi, I don't know. The longer action cuts is from him. Kano tweeted that he could animate a long ass cut because of the storyboards, so that is from Kikuchi's boards. And even the less action-oriented scenes, the first couple of seconds of the episode feels different. The camera slowly revealing Cha-haen from behind the truck, kind of like the same thing as what JJK Season 2 did with the elevator scene. The perspective shot of this pickaxe, or even giving more of that sense of scale of the room, the camera was placed on the roof. You feel that shockwave effect through the wind effects, and more importantly, the rope. Or, more importantly, Ki-hoon getting the back shots of all back shots. I complimented the CG backgrounds. The CG high orcs, I think it's fine. It doesn't feel jarring. It could be better, but every CG is not gonna look like a Medalist or Love Life. That's just impossible. I think the movements can feel a bit janky. It's CG, makes sense, but when the CG is on the high orc shadows, it looks better because you don't need the complications of adding shadows on the model since the shadows are simple one-dimensional color, almost Kagenashi, that's easier to mask. The drawing quality this episode was the best this season. I feel like I keep saying that every episode. Here Takatoguda was the one chief ADing. I was expecting him here since there's a lot of monsters. He's the monster designer. The overall despair that the party had on their faces was very detailed, especially these shots. The patches of shadows with less opacitated ones, or just the fully blacked out shadows, really insinuates the expressions with the very angular drawings. Kind of remind me of how Shinobu Nishioka draws his character. Again, everyone's faces are so detailed to show the unnerving nature, but Jinwoo is like, I'm blackfacing. Jinwoo's drawings are amazing, showing that he's the main character, darkening the faces like in the manhwa, and of course Karkalgan's drawings are great too. There's some that looked different compared to the usual. I wonder who corrected them. There was also some nice character acting. Well, I don't know if spewing out blood from the mouth and eyes are nice, but it really exaggerates those motions. Ki-hoon's slow head turn that feels very volumetric, and Cha-haen tying her hair was smooth, doing their KyoAni hair tie Sakuga cosplay. The comp is just better this season. The mixing between 2D and 3D is flawless. It doesn't feel like two dimensions clashing. The purple coloring for the shadows look amazing after Jinwoo does his Ryoiki Tenkai. Purple. I don't know what joke to make there. Although this fire / lava textures in this cut was meh, and the blue is still bluing, everything else was great. They're not overdoing it, and the effects reflecting on Jinwoo just makes me Minnesota! Coming back in the action, I'm just gonna sound like a broken record every scene. Very dynamic, good boards, great sense of scale and speed, blah blah blah, you get me? The A-team is working on this episode. A lot of the main animators did a lot for this. I'm not gonna highlight all of them because runtime. This is highly prioritized, so there's a lot more movement, even for random orcs and shadows clashing. This sequence is simple, but the execution makes it so impactful. I love the more visible outlines on the shadows, since these are hand-drawn shadows. The slow-mo gets the impact across with the big amount of blood effects, and the camera basically following Iron's axe. Igris looks majestic with the ore farming, the timing of it, and also adding little blurs, subtle camera movement, and making the scene more saturated for a bit, adding like a filter, just gives that more of an oomph. Takafumi Tori did some corrections for some scenes and animated a sequence. Tori's animation is Kanada style, but it mainly acts as a base. He does use a lot of techniques from that style. There was even a Kanada flair for this episode. He definitely animates in a more fluid nature, not that exaggerated as actual Kanada animators. He has done a lot in A1, although he's a freelancer. He has good connections with the studio, animating a lot, even being the main animators for some shows. And his best role in A1 being Karen's bus coordinator in Makeine. Smash. You still see with his corrections how snappy and bombastic it is. The camera just makes it more chaotic. The sequence that Tori did was hella energetic. The over-exaggerated posing with the action lines really puts more force on the attacks. I love Jinwoo when he's flipping his dagger and you can see Karkalgan's reflection on his dagger. Cool little detail. And with this shot, rather than cutting it, they rotate the camera to Jinwoo's face. The effects by Tori is great with this wobbly smearing when it's erupting. With the perspective and the snappy nature, you can feel Jinwoo throwing his dagger. The effects animation too, there was a lot of them and looked absolutely stunning with multicolored shading on it. And this cut, the effects feels very Yutapon. Yoshiro Kano's sequence was the most intricate in terms of boards and animation power. You can also see how Iron and Igris fight differently. Iron is just brute forcing, swinging his axe around, with great camera work and choreography, adding heavier line work to get the force across more, while Igris is nimble, flipping around and shit, and switching to different weapons. Very strategized. The overall chaotic camera work and absolute flawless 3D backgrounds, like, my god, W. Of course, Kano's snappy action. He's animating Igris and two other orcs that's shifting to different perspectives so much. Crazy how easy Kano makes it look. And the colorful impact frames when Tank showed up was crazy looking. This sequence got the scale so well. The chain is of course way bigger compared to Jinwoo. The fast-paced cuts with perspective shots to insinuate the speed, and the camera rotating around Karkalgan. Someone had to animate Karkalgan rotating around from all angles. This last scene of the fight with this glitchy red effects on it symbolizes the game ended. Wink wink. And also Hajime Nakagawa's little sequence with Karkalgan's erect with his own distinct style of shading, very blocky, and the effects, crazy work. There's a lot more to cover this episode, but I don't want to cover all of it because filler video. Also, this guy, I don't remember him. Looks like Oikawa. He's A rank, by the way. While this episode was absolutely phenomenal, it's not the peaks of season 2. There's a couple more. Again, Takeuchi's episode will probably be the best looking. I love Kikuchi, but Takeuchi's is just better for both action and non-action stuff. I'll say this. This episode is like S tier stuff, but Takeuchi, S plus maybe. With his connections, you can expect some very talented people participating. Also now, I'm just gonna farm solo leveling. Maybe next episode, I might not do one because I want to script something else. I'm actually not getting bored doing these episode breakdowns, unlike when I did my season 1's breakdown, because I changed how I script my videos now with these breakdowns. I don't know what video is coming next week. Maybe the A1 Studio video? Maybe the Why Fate Looks Good video? Who knows? If you guys like this video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a like. Comment down below what are your thoughts about this episode. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. See you guys next time.